Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good
Yeah,
evening,
good
sir.
evening. Good evening. Good evening. Actually, I was trying to, I don't know, there was some problem with the uh, connection. I was trying to speak, but no, I think you people were not able to hear. Anyways, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So we are supposed to do today the next novel. So how many of you have read the next novel?
So I have read.
Got the gist of it.
Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. How many of you have read? Please, you can raise your. Okay, okay, fine. Yeah. Hmm, just give me 1 minute. Okay, okay. I can see some of you are writing that you have read the summary. Okay. Yeah. So Charles Dickens, if we um, so about the author. Okay, fine, fine. I can see all of you have read. Okay, you have read the. Yeah. So Charles Dickens, mm, to talk about Charles Dickens was born on 7th of February in 1812 and at Hampshire, England, and took his last breath on June 9th, 1870. He was an English novelist, and generally he is considered for his, the greatest work for during that period of time in the Victorian era. And his many volumes include, A Christmas Carol. If any one of you have read Christmas Carol, David Copperfield, Bleak House, A Tale from Two Cities, Great Expectations, and Our Mutual Friend. So Dickens, enjoyed a wider popularity during his lifetime than had any previous, author, and much in his work could appeal to the simple and sophisticated, to the poor, and to the Oliver Tuesdays, um, and to the poor and to the Queen, and the technological advancements as we see, as well as the qualities of his work, which enabled him his fame to spread worldwide very quickly. So you find his long career saw fluctuations in the reception and sales of individual novels, but none of them was negligible or uncharacterized or disregarded. And though he is now admired for aspects and phases of his work that were given less weight by his contemporaries, his popularity has never ceased. So the most abundantly comic of English authors, he was much more than a great entertainer. So the range of passion and intelligence of his apprehension of his society and its shortcomings all enriched his novels and made him both one of the great forces in 19th century literature and also an influential spokesman of the conscience of his age. So you find um, Dickens, left the place where he was born in his infancy, and his happiest childhood years were spent in Chatham, where he spent from 1817 to 22, which was an area to which he often reverted in his fictions. In his fictions, he has always, reflected that. And from 1822, he lived in London until 1860, and he moved permanently, to the country house and Gad's Hill near, you know, Chatham. And you see, his origins were, middle class, if of a, newfound and precarious respectability. One grandfather had been a domestic servant, and the his father used to be a clerk in the Navy pay office, who were well paid, but his extravagance and ineptitude often brought the family to financial embarrassment or a disaster. So you find some of his failings and his ebullience and dramatized and Mr. Coward in the partly autobiographical of David Copperfield. So, and then in 1824, the family reached, bottom, and Charles, the eldest son, had been withdrawn from school and now, set to manual work in the factory. And his father went to prison for death. So those shocks deeply affected Charles, and um though abhorring this, brief, descent into the working class, he began to gain that sympathetic knowledge of his life and privations that informed his writing. So the image of the prison and of the lost, oppressed, and the or the bewildered child recur in many of his novels. Sweetie, are you there? Sweetie, Sweetie Giri,
Sir,
are you
yes,
there?
sir. Yes, sir. I joined now. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm teaching Great Expectations, Sweetie, the next novel.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Got it,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. You're
Thank you, sir.
messaging on the in the group,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Yes,
just
sir.
yeah.
Sir. Yes, sir. I got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So much else you see in his character and art, which is stemmed from this period, including as you find the 20th century novelist Wilson, Angus Wilson, had has argued uh, his later difficulty, as man and author. is understanding women. This may be traced to his bitter resentment against his mother, who had he left failed disastrously, and at the time, to appreciate his sufferings. And you know she had wanted him to stay at work when his father released from prison, and an improvement in the family's fortune made the boy's return to school possible. And happily the father viewed prevailed. And you see, as I had told you that yeah. So looking at, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So if you see beginning of the literary career, you see much drawn to the theater. Dickens nearly became a professional actor in 1832, and in 1833 he began contributing stories and descriptive essays to the magazines. Okay, so and then you find that and even he was like you could see that there were he was also whatever he was writing, his contributions were there uh, for the newspapers also. Just a minute. Yeah, and then you find that these attracted attention and were reprinted as sketches by Bose in February 1936. The same month, he was invited to provide a comic serial, a narrative, to accompany engravings by a well-known artist. And 7 weeks later, the first installment of the Pickwick Papers appeared. So within a few months, the Pickwick was the rage, and Dickens the most popular author of the day. And during 1836, he also wrote two plays and a pamphlet um, on a topical issue. And resigning from his newspaper job, he undertook to edit a monthly magazine. That monthly magazine name was Bentley's Miscellany, in which he serialed Oliver Twist in 1837 to 39. And you find he had two serial installments to write every month. So already the first of his nine surviving children had been born, and he married in April 1836. He had married Catherine, eldest daughter of a respected Scottish journalist and a man of letters, George Hogarth. And then you find, you know, his, um, growth in the um, in writing. The text began, and he started writing. You know, um, his most of his writings. Last years, during the last years, you find this novel, Great Expectation, was written. So you find the French Revolution scene, which are very vivid, if superficial in his historical understanding also. Great Expectations, which was written in 1860 to 61, resembles David Copperfield is being, a first-person narration and is, drawing on parts of the Dickens personality and experience. So you find compact like its, uh, you know, um, predecessor. It lacks the panoramic inclusiveness of, the Bleak House, Little Dorrit, and and Our Mutual Friend. But uh, though not his, most ambitious, it is most finely achieved novel. So the you find um, yeah. So you find that most of the biographers during that period of time have only, since the mid 20th century, explored the complexity of, Dickens' nature. So critics have always been, challenged by his art, though, from the start it contained enough easily acceptable ingredients, evident skill and gusto to ensure popularity. So you find that most of his works were popular works, and by and a large they remained so throughout the 20th century. So you find during Dickens' lifetime, critics began to temper against the later novels, deploring the loss of the comic spirit, which baffled by the more symbolic mode of his art, and very uneasy when when the simpler reformism over isolated issues became a more radical questioning of social assumptions and institutions. So you find uh, that he was a genius, and he was that of a great entertainer too, through his novels. So this is all about Charles Dickens. Are you able to hear me, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So could you understand? Okay, okay. Moving ahead, we will move to Great Expectations. Hmm. Okay. So I will tell you. So you find few of the English literature have been more, loved than Great Expectations. Originally, you find it was published in serial form, as I said, in the weekly newspaper all year round, which Charles Dickens owned and ran, and it has always been one of the best selling Victorian novels during that period of time. And you find no Dickens work with the expectations of the first the uh, novel A Christmas Carol has been adapted for more for both film and television. So it has been as popular with critics as it has with the public. And early reviews were mixed, with the influential Blackwoods magazine finding where it is where feble, fatigued, colorless, and the American Atlantic Monthly lamenting that some of the old you know uh, hilarity and the play of fancy has gone. But later critics, have been more or less unanimous in their praise. And in 1937, George Bernard Shaw, he, called the novel, Dickens' most compactly perfect, book. And even John Lucas describes it as the most perfect and the most beautiful of all Dickens novels. And I have already told you about I told you about Angus Wilson, who has also commented on this novel. So, Great Expectations has been so successful, partly become it's an exciting story. Dickens always, had a keen eye on the market and subscribed to the Wilkie Collins advice, who make him laugh, make him cry, above all, make him wait. And from the violent scene, you find violent opening scene on the marshes to the climax of the Magwitch attempted to escape on the Thames. The story is full of suspense, misery, and drama. But while these elements of Great Expectations have ensured its popularity, it is also a novel which, as uh, it shows, profound. It talks about the nature of the Victorian society, but and about the way during that Victorian society the human relationship works, and the extent to which people are shaped by their childhoods and the circumstances in which they grow up. Okay, am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll tell
Yes, sir.
you. Yes,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So I'll tell you the plot. So mm, the hero of Great Expectation is Pip, who is Christian, Philip Pirip, who is an orphan and brought up by his much older sister and her husband, Joe Gargary. So Joe is a good-hearted blacksmith who treats Pip kindly, and Mrs. Joe is a cane-wielding tyrant. So, visiting his family's grave on Christmas Eve in a deserted graveyard in the marshes, Pip is jumped on by a convict on the run from the Hulk's prison ships lying, in the mouth of nearby Medway estuary. So, getting terrified, he, agrees to steal food for the convict, and as well as a file to saw off his fetters. So later, when the convict, Abel Magwith, is recaptured, he does not betray Pip, and nor does he forget Pip's kindness. So Pip's ap- Pip's apprenticeship, which is in Joe's forge a year or two later. is preceded by a strange summons to visit the imperious Miss Havisham, who's nearby Satis house, and abandoned at the altar 20 years earlier. She had kept its interior and her dress and even the wedding table feast now which has rotted, and the food is for mice, exactly as it was on that day which she was jilted. So at her ruined and shuttered house, Pip is humiliated and tormented by Miss Havisham's young ward Estella, and he nonetheless falls hopelessly in love with Estella. So after several visits to Satis house, Pip is called on by an um, you know a London lawyer, Jaggers, who informs him that he now has expectations. Uh, what expectations? A handsome bequest is in prospect. So Jaggers, is not free to say who is the mysterious benefactor is, and Pip naturally assumes it to be a Miss Havisham, the heiress of the to a great brewing fortune. And now Pip can rise in life, and he goes off to London to pursue the goal of becoming a gentleman. And Joe and the housekeeper Biddy, uh, whom he leaves behind and heartbroken, and in London, which he has never visited before. He lodges in the city's legal quarters, and Howard Pocket, who's a young clerk, distinctly relates to Miss Havisham. So Harvard has no expectations whatsoever, and slaves in an insurance office, and he and Pip become friends. So Pip also befriends Wem Jagger's head clerk, and one of the most more amiable character in the novel. And now you can find a man about town. You can find a man in the town. Um, yeah. So Pip, still aspires to marry Estella, who has become a serial, breaker of men's heart, as Miss Havisham has trained her to be. And she is cold as ice towards Pip out of kindness, and she, you know, tells him because she actually cares for him and would rather not break his heart, but she will never love him or any man, and she cannot. So Pip learns that his sister has been savagely attacked and left helpless, invalid, and there is Dogle Orlik, who's a journeyman blacksmith who's dismissed by Joe, is suspected. So one night, when alone, aged 23 and about to come into his fortune, is visited by Abel Magwith, the escaped convict he helped on the marshes. And to his dismay, Magwith, you know, um, alias the Provis, turns out to be his. Uh, just a minute. Rasmita, you have something to say?
Sir, many students are waiting for class.
Waiting for, okay, means, okay, I think they have joined now. Okay. So, having prospered as a, you know, as a sheep farmer in Australia, he decided to use his money to create a gentleman of my own, and both in gratitude to Pip and as an act of revenge against his accomplice. Uh, Compson, who, because he was a gentleman, was treated by the court for the offense of forgery, has led to his being transported for life. So, having come back, you see that. Uh, Without leave, Macbeth will be hanged if caught, and Pip, mortified as he is, who gives his patron refuge, but refuses to accept any more of his money, and he visits, Miss Havisham to protest at her having, cruelly misled him, and learns that Estella is to marry offish, Bentley Drumley, who is a gentleman by birth with aristocrat connections. And Estella has, no feeling for Drumley or any man. So she is, simply carrying through Miss Havisham's merciless campaign against the male sex. So on a subsequent visit, you find in which Miss Havisham finally implores, Pip's forgiveness. The old man who dies as a result of the fire which burns at his house to the ground, and Pip himself is badly injured trying to save her. So it emerges that Macbeth is Estella's father. Her mother Molly is, Jagger's housekeeper. So, and Macbeth, mortal foe, Compeyson is further, transpires the man who jilted Miss Havisham at the altar. So Dickens was never a novelist, frightened by coincidence or improbability. So you find after nearly being, murdered in an encounter on the marshes with his old enemy, Orlick, Pip, tries to help Macbeth to escape. So his efforts are foiled by Compeyson, who, still make mischief and has found out what is going on and has, tipped off the police. And in a desperate fight in the waters of the Thames, Compeyson is, drowned, and Macbeth mortally is wounded. So he dies in the, condemned cell of Newgate prison. And Pip, having contracted jail, never, had a, as a result of his, visit to the jail, he was suffering from fever, and then is, nursed back to health by Joe, who nobly, pays off Pip's debts. And Macbeth's fortune being, confiscated by the crown, thus stopping him being sent to the debtor's prison, and Pip, then returns home to ask Biddy to marry him, and finds that she is already married to Joe. So then, what happens is penniless, he becomes, a clerk and goes off to work abroad alongside Herbert. And 11 years later, he returns to visit Joe and Betty. So you find in the ruins of Satch's house, he is reunited with Estella, whom he finds walking there. Estella's husband, Drumley, has been killed by a horse and he was abusing. So the narrative suggests that they may, at last marry, but the ending is left deliberately, ambiguous. Am I clear? Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is the the plot of the of this novel, Great Expectations. So we will talk about. Did you understand? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Please reply when I'm asking. If not over, if you are not replying, you you know, using your mic, you can always reply with your message. Okay, so Great Expectations is the first person narrative, and therefore the readers, should be wary of, taking all the Pip's comment at face value. So Dickens, you find, however, is clearly, presenting the Pip who relates the story as individual who has, arrived at a deep spiritual and moral awareness of who is therefore, somebody the reader can trust, even though in his, younger years, he makes some understandable mistakes. So the character analyzes that, to follow the that to follow, present evidence which is derived from all of the ways in which Dickens, reveals his major character to the reader, and that is Pip. And you find Pip, makes tremendous, moral and spiritual growth throughout the novel. I find has a very natural nobility of speech and manner despite his humble origins, and he has a very strong sense of right and wrong, and is very much affected by the conscience. He falls, deeply in love with Estelle at first sight, but desperately, uh, wishes to become a gentleman so as to be, worthy of Estella's higher social status, and suffers much, unhappiness and dissatisfaction as a result of his infatuation with, Estella, and becomes corrupted by the shallow values and the status of wealth, as he aspires to, rise in the society. So you find ultimately becomes ashamed of his own ungrateful and ungenerous behavior towards Joe and Biddy, and rediscovers that the naturally affectionate nature of his original childhood self. So Pip's name may well be symbolic of the emotional, intellectual and spiritual growth that he makes throughout the novel. And Pip being a seed, the uh, this ability to evolve and grow distinguishes him from most of the other characters who largely remain, static. So you find the technique of giving a character very important that reflects the personality and appearance. Okay, is called character tomy. Sorry, character tonym. You can write this.
Excuse me, can you repeat it, please?
Yeah. The technique of giving a character a name that reflects their personality or appearance. That reflects their personality and appearance is known as character chronym. I'll spell the word CH. I'm writing it there in the chat. Yeah, I've written in the chat. You can see character name. Could you all see that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you find that Dickens often, associates his characters with the image that provides a strong clue as their, respective personalities. For example, Pip's, own name, showing an understanding, um, you know, like in the opening sentence, you find Pip, introduces himself as the novel's narrator and sets about recounting the chance encounter with Magwitch that ultimately, determines his fate. So the older narrator, you know, describes his younger self as a as the small bundle of shivers. You find that has been described in chapter 1, and who studies the graves of both of his parents and 5 of his brothers. So a number of sympathetic circumstances are immediately established. So he's an orphan. He's frightened by the stormy weather, and he is about to roughly manhandled by an apparently fierce and murderous convict. So in his dealings with the convict, Magwitch, Pip's essentially virtuous nature is instantly established, and in response, you find to Magwitch's rough questioning, the young Pip truthfully and respectfully recounts his family circumstances, which while you find simultaneously, revealing a degree of, spirit and courage that gains the reader's respect. And that is where, in chapter 1, it has been mentioned, I was dreadfully frightened and so giddy I clung. Yes, yes. MSc. Yes. Oh, okay, okay, fine. Okay, where did I leave? I'm so sorry. I got disturbed. What was I telling? I was telling about the lines, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
explaining about Magwitch's character.
yeah,
You were
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you know, mm, yeah. So, and then, you find young people. Okay, yeah, the lines that, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was, yeah, the lines were like this. I was dreadfully frightened and so giddy that I clung to him with both hands and said, if you would kindly please to let me, me keep upright, sir, perhaps I shouldn't be sick, and perhaps I could attend more. So you find the young Pip's words reveal, impeccable good manners, a mature vocabulary, and a sophisticated use of grammar that is, generally lacking in Dickens, lower class characters. And this contrasts sharply you find with the clumsy sentence structures and often you find inaccurately pronounced vocabulary that Magwith uses to terrorize people. So um, through his absolute terror of Magwith, Pip is forced, to enter into a pact involving the theft of food and a file, from his foster parents, Joe and Mrs. Joe Gaggery. And this promise, causes an internal and moral conflict that results in such an extreme degree of distress that it drives the plot from the you know, uh, first five chapters. And because of young Pip has such an, highly developed sense of right and wrong, he is torn, between keeping his promise to Magwith and, stealing from his beloved Joe. So Dickens, depicts this moral dilemma with an intensity far beyond what would be expected of a child of just 7 years of age. And Pip, the narrator, describes how his younger self you know, uh, finds, agonizes over the dreadful pledge that he was under to commit a lancery on those sheltering premises, which is there in chapter 2. And the next significant event in Pip's moral and spiritual evolution, uh, find mm, is his first encounter with Estella at where, which place? Which place did Pip, encounter Estella?
At Sati's place.
Yes, Satch's house. Satch's house. So, this meeting proves to be, the cause of young Pip's dissatisfaction with his life. almost immediately he begins to lose sight of his own moral, compass, and of the moral superiority of the person who had, uh, you know, there to been most important to him, his loving but childlike foster father Joe. So his first encounter was Estella and Miss Havisham, who deludes him into mistaking arrogance and cruelty for superiority. And this combined with the young Estella, great beauty, and results in an infatuation that prevails throughout the rest of the novel, which I find until the later stages becomes the guiding principles that motivates Pip to seek the social status over truth and integrity. So consequently, his proposed future as you know um, apprentice at the forge, and which had long been the dream of both Pip and Joe, and now becomes viewed as demeaning. So you find as Pip's sense of shame at the sturdiness of Joe's working boots, and the roughness of his skilled blacksmith hand suggests you know uh, only the shallow and unproductive life of a gentleman would suffice. And of course, you find that the narrator recognizes the lack of wisdom in his younger self, hotly declared adolescent ambition, when he immediately qualifies it as being lunatic confession, which is mentioned in chapter 17. So towards you find towards the end of volume one, Pip wished to be a gentleman in need. Granted, that this, being part of the fairly, uh, type of a fairy tale quality of the novel, and as in most, fairy tale, however, it is wise to be careful what you wish for. And the way the life of a gentleman, as depicted in volume 2, leads to Pip into irresponsibly extravagant ways, which quickly results in debt and depression, and a lack of direction and satisfaction. And worse still, Pip's extravagant lifestyle also leads to the corruption of his best friend, the otherwise virtuous Herbert Pocket, and through Pip's, severe lapses in both judgment and behavior, Dickens demonstrates the moral inadequacies of the upper class society into which Pip has successfully moved. And ultimately, you find what restores, Pip to the um, upright, you know, uh, moral, uh, say moral mm, certainty that he possessed as a child, is the knowledge that his status as a gentleman is founded on the wealth of an ex convict. So, as a result, his social standing is invalid in the eyes of the snobbish upper class world to which he has, aspired. And furthermore, what happens is Pip now realizes that his wealth does not derive from Miss Havisham, as he had mistakenly believed. And Pip, the narrator, explains how it became apparent to his younger self that his hopes had all been a mere dream, and Estella not designed for me, which is mentioned in chapter 39. So the immediate realization that follows now, that the illusion had been dispelled is that of his own worthless, conduct towards Joe and Betty. So the return of this, you know, instinctive sense of right and wrong, which you find Pip has possessed as a child, becomes the guiding principle that steers him through uh, the volume third of the book and the concluding part of the novel. And it shows the compassion and the affection towards the ex-convict Magwitch, secretly ensures that Herbert's fortune are advanced, generously forgives Miss Havishams for the misery she had caused him, and reconciles himself with both Joe and Billy. So whom he now views with the respect and their upright characters so clearly deserved. And his reward for the painful spiritual journey that he has undertaken during the course of the novel is his ultimate union with his heart's desire, Estella. Now, but not with the unfeeling, damaged child of the Satis house. He is to be accompanied, through the rest of his life by a mature woman through her own painful progress, has now learned the innate value of the unconditional love that Pip has long offered, and as she openly declares herself that it is a love that she had once thrown away when and quite ignorant of its worth. And the journey that Pip has, shared with the readers illustrates the novel's, essential moral theme, and that is, uh, it is the quality of individual that really counts, not the eminence of the social position. I hope you agree with me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I totally agree.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and this is so. Do you want me to talk about any of the other characters, or should we go to the themes? If you want any more characters, if you want me to discuss with, hello,
Sir, I think we
Yes,
should
sir.
go with the
So everything is
theme.
about themes.
Uttara, yes,
Themes, yes, sir.
themes. Should we go to the themes?
Yes,
The
sir.
themes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yes, themes, sir. It will be better.
Okay, okay. Have you all gone through your the books of books materials? Have you gone through that?
Sir, actually, we did, means I and most of the student did not receive the complete book. We have received some book. Means each MEG we got one to two book like that. We did not receive all the books.
Okay, but
And some
books, no, no, books are available online also. If you have not got, you can go through.
they are available, but sir, as we means we have to read for so long time, no, so it's not convenient. to read with that every time from the laptop, from mobile. It is not more convenient, as we know it was. We have got the option of both the thing, but we opted for the
Mm,
book. But till now, the book is not with us.
okay. So you're from which regional center?
So Bhuvneswar only.
Okay, okay. So I think you can always contact your regional center and they will tell you what is the status of the, because the books are now not, it is not sent from the regional center. It directly comes from Delhi.
Yeah. Sir, books are available for the online students.
Yeah, it is available for online, offline students also. The PDFs are available. But some people like Sohana said, there's a problem while reading. So
Sir,
so I
I
think
received the novel books yesterday only. I received it yesterday.
okay,
Sir,
okay,
I will
okay.
receive on 17th
Yes.
Feb.
Yeah, slowly, slowly it will come. I'm sure it will come. Okay. So coming to the coming to the themes, I think first we can we see the social class as a theme. Social class, great expectations is set near the end of the industrial revolution. Have you gone through the history part of English literature? How many of you are um, from a non-literature background?
Me, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I am also.
Okay, I can see so many hands. Okay. Rest all of you, many of you are there who are from, okay. So those who are from non-literature background, what I suggest is please, read the history because if you don't read the history of English literature, you will not be able to connect to, the periods that we are talking about. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I can send you a history PDF. I'll send you all the PDFs that you wanted. I'll send you. I'm just putting them together in order so that I can send you phase by phase. Each novel I can send you, and I'll send you the book for the English. English, the history of English literature.
Sir, can you suggest a good book? Means as we are the literature student, but sometimes it is a vast thing to be kept in our mind. So, sir, can you suggest any book so we can go through it?
Means, are you talking about history of English literature?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, sir, I have a book, but that one is little means it is a means it is not more clear to me. It is very vast to be
What
Sir,
covered.
is the name of the book?
sir, I have. I, Actually, sir, there is this the books available in the market, the history of English literature. But the problem is they are actually talking about from the author or poet's perspective, like in from Victorian era to this era, and then they are talking about the only the poet or dramatist of that. But to get a clear idea about the history, then there is this social history of England is available, but the problem is there is more of social this war movement and revolution, and we don't know how to connect it with the literature aspect. So do you have any book suggestion that we there the content of social history and which is connected to the literature aspect? If you can suggest any one book, then we can all buy that
Yeah,
book,
there
sir.
are two. You can buy this history of English literature by Edward Albert. Have you? Which is the book that you had got?
Sir, I got the David Ditch's
I
the
have the
two
history of
volumes
English
are there.
literature by uh, sir. I have the history of English literature book by K.R. Ramachandran Nair, and I have the social history of England by Padmaja Ashok. So if I want, then
Yes,
I
yes,
have
sir.
to go
Padmaja
back and
Ashok.
forth with these two books.
No, Padmaja Ashok is a good book,
Sir,
but Padmaja Ashok is a good book. But you, if you want to get this Oxford's History of English Literature by Edward Albert, you can get that, or you can also get the Routledge's History of English Literature by Ronald Ketter.
Sir, in Albert's, it is given in elaborate form. I have that
Yeah,
book.
but you will understand. Yeah, yeah, it's elaborate and you can understand also.
So the total history is given in a very elaborated form in Edward Albert.
Correct, correct, correct. Okay, so let us come to the themes. So I was talking about the social class. So yeah, as I said, the great expectations were set near somewhere at the end of Industrial Revolution, which was a period of dramatic technological improvement in manufacturing and commerce that that among other things which created new opportunities for people who were born in the lower or poor classes to gain wealth and more into higher and wealthier class. So this new social mobility marked a distinct break from the hereditary aristocracy of the past, which enforced class consistency based solely on the family lines, and great expectations is set in this new world, and Dickens explores it by tracing Pip's ascent through the class system, a trajectory that would not happen have been possible within the rigid class hierarchy of the past. So you find the novel ranges from the lowest classes of convicts and orphans to the poor class, working class, like Joe and Biddy, up to the wealthy, Miss Havisham, whose family made its fortune through the manufacture of beer. Notably, the novel spends virtually no time focused on the traditional aristocracy when it does not make those who still believe in the um, you say the inheritance of class, which looks ridiculous through the absurd character of Mrs. Pocket, and whose blind faith in the blood lineage, where which has been rendered utterly useless to the society. Yet you find that in the world, of great expectations, where the notably you find nobility and the gentility that were once associated with the aristocracy are no longer, seen as founded in the birthright, and characters continually grapple with the question of what those traits are based on. Can they be taught or not? They can they be brought or not? So we find Pip, tries both. He educates himself in order to gain manners, good manners, and also spends on the luxury goods, outfitting himself with the trappings of the aristocracy as if to purchase aristocracy itself. So these tensions come to a head when when um, mm, uh, when Provis arrives in London and ignorantly, confident in his power to use his wealth and to buy gentility. Prophecy, misguides, misguided by the trust in money, awakens Pip to his own, misunderstanding. And meanwhile, you find Dickens, constantly upends the old equation between nobility and class. So this is how you find it comes to learn that the source of true gentility is spirituality, nobility, rather than than either great knowledge or wealth. So you even find um, aim, ambition, improving oneself. You find that was also that is also as a theme which has been reflected, and so you find. You find pip is a small seed, something that starts off tiny and then grows and develops into something new. So Pip's name then is no accident, as Great Expectations is belongs Roman a story of the growth and development of its main character. And Dickens presents the ambition to improve oneself that drives people, along. So what's happening is. Dickens presents the ambition to improve oneself, and you see, uh, and the novel's secondary character is a force, capable of generating both positive and negative results. So Pip's early ambitions focus on elevating his social class, on making himself into someone who seems worthy of a stellar. And you find, but in the process, he turns himself into someone who feels like a sham, is unkind to those who are kindest to him, such as Joe and Faust, and ruins himself financially. So through these humbling experiences, it eventually comes to understand self-improvement as a complex process involving moral and spiritual development.
Yeah, no sound is there actually.
I think sir is not in here. So, Deepshika, right?
Yeah, sir
Yes,
has
yes.
left by
Tell
mistake,
me.
I think so. It's
Yeah,
showing
now
left.
tell me, Deepshika, what?
Yeah, it is showing left. I saw it.
Yeah,
Some issue with the network maybe.
huh. Deepshika,
No,
what are you saying?
no,
You want to send me?
no, actually, you wanted the Albert, no, that has been sent the PDF form by
Huh,
in the group.
huh, huh, huh. That's what you're saying. Huh? Okay, I have uploaded.
That was, yes.
Do
No,
you
I
have
have
any
the book
other?
in the hard copy. So I was saying if you need it, I will get.
Okay, okay, no problem. If you have
If you
any
Okay,
see
whoever
the
other
has to
L word
please
in this
share, it's
Ronald one.
okay.
uh,
Yes.
Babita, 2 minutes, okay? Can you mute your side? Hello? Can you? Thank you. 2 minutes. Deepika, do you have any other book which has, this history of, you have any other suggestion for this history of English literature book?
No. I think sir, these two books, the
No, no.
Ronald and the Edward, these two books are sufficient for writing the history. I think so because they have
Okay.
everything in elaborate
Okay.
form. That will be
Okay. Then
sufficient.
I'll upload
Go
it in
go
the
through
drive.
that, and
Okay.
after that you can find.
Ha, ha, ha.
You see
Because
that.
now whatever I'm having it in a separate form. I have a social history and I have this history of English literature which only talks about the writers of those era. And I have
Mm,
to, read this book and that book back and forth to understand everything. So I was actually wondering which book to,
in,
suggest so that everyone
no, in Elward you
from
will get
non-lit
to know
background
about the
also
era
will.
also and also the writers also. In Edward you will
Okay,
get
good.
both the
Thank
eras,
you so
both
much.
you got to know about the eras and also the writers also. So that will be sufficient, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I got the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
I got the PDF. I'll upload it after the class. Thank
That
you.
was. Uh, okay.
Hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
there's some
yes, sir.
fluctuation with the you know network, so that is why it's breaking in between. Okay, so yeah, so I told you about the social class, about the ambition, about self improvement, and then we also have integrity as one of the themes. You find in Great Expectation, Dickens, explores the pride as both, a positive and a negative trait by presenting various types of pride, ranging from Estella and Drumley's snobbery to Joe and Biddy's moral uprightness, and the the crucial distinction between these different varieties of pride is whether they rely on the other people's opinions, or whether they spring from character's internal conscience and personal sense of accomplishment. So, please mute yourselves. Do you have anything to ask? MSc, yes. Hello. Please mute yourself, and your hands, your virtual hands are, you know, raised. So please. So yes, so you find these characters who espouse the former variety and concern with reputation, not with integrity, and among them are Mrs. Joe and Uncle Pumblecook, Estella and Bentley Drummle. So because these characters measure themselves according to the public opinion, and they constantly comparing themselves to the people around them, and de um, denigrating others in order to make themselves seem superior by comparison. But yet, because it's impossible to be sure of other people's opinion, they are never satisfied. And Mrs. Joe and Drumley are sour tempered, and people is deeply unhappy for the majority of the novel. So character like Joe and Biddy, on the other hand, possesses integrity, and thus value themselves according to their own standards of success. So because they are self-sufficient rather than dependent on others for affirmation, these characters are at peace with themselves and can actually experience contentment. So over the course of the novel, you find Pip evolves from being a person invested in reputation to being a person with integrity. And Estella first triggers Pip's obsessions with reputation, and he spends more miserable years frantically trying to inflate Estella's opinion to him. And uh, eventually, you see Pip learns to listen to his internal conscience and stops, placing so much value on others' views. So shame play as integral role in this education. Most of the novel you find Pip suppresses his shame at mistreating Joe and Biddy and avoids apologizing to them, and this behavior prioritizes the reputation, refusing to acknowledge shame so that the public will not see it. And a person with integrity, by contrast, apologizes because he has prioritized his conscience over controlling how others see him. So only after being humbled by financial loss and by Provis misfortune does Pip, develop the integrity to admit his own errors and apologize to Joe and Biddy. So along the way, you find Mimic, respects for respect for the domestic life and Herbert's, virtuousness, which points Pip in the right direction. And then we see parents as also, guardian as one of the themes, because in the novel you find distrust, the British culture, traditional blind faith in family lines. It also looks skeptically at the traditional family unit, and Great Expectations include very few models of the healthy parent-child relation. So many of the novel character, including Provis and Biddy, are orphans, and those you find that aren't orphans come from broken or dysfunctional families like Herbert's, Miss Havisham's, Estella, Clara, Joe, and through Wimmick's relationship with the aged parent seems like an expectation. It's important to note that Dickens introduces us them to a stage of their lives with when their dynamic has inverted, and Wimmick parents his father rather than being cared for by him, and not until the few last thing to encounter the functional traditional family newly started by Joe and Vicky. So instead of showcasing, the traditional mothers and fathers, Dickens chooses to feature adoptive, parents, mentors, and guardians. So you see, justice as also one of the themes. Justice, why? Because Pip's encounters with the escaped convict at the beginning of the Great Expectations, and you find through Mr. Jaggers function as an upstanding force in Pip's life by checking Pip's extravagance. It is questionable whether his law practice truly serves the law. And after all, Mr. Jaggers also built his reputation on successful acquitting a murder. So likewise, we make separate moral codes, one for the law firm, one for home, and highlights the legal mindset inadequacy in matters of the heart or family. And most distressing of all is some of the novel's most crimes which slip right through the legal system. And then we also have generosity reflected as one of the themes which Dickon explores many different understandings of generosity and great expectations. And through Pip's initial generosity towards Provis is mostly, motivated by fear. And Provis understands that it is a true generosity and response by selflessly, devoting his life's savings towards Pip's future. And meanwhile, Mrs. Joe and Uncle Pumblechick understands the generosity as a status marker, and much more, interested in being considered, generous than in actually acting generously. So they thus, constantly, take credit of Joe's generosity to better their own reputation in turn. And later you find Pip believes that the best kind of generosity is anonymous, and claims that his life's only good deed was his secret donation to Herbert's career. So indeed, you find many of the novel's most generous acts, including Provis's, Joe's, and Pip's, are not recognized for a long time, implying, that the truly generous, give without, expecting immediate recognition. And yet, despite the delay, every, gifts giver is eventually, um, you know discovered and thanked, which suggests that true generosity is always rewarded in the end. So Pip's ability to recognize generosity shift over the course of the novel, and his early ingratitude towards Joe and Travis evolves into deep appreciation. And these men also inspire, in Pip himself, who selflessly devotes himself to Travis. Okay, so these are some of the, themes that Dickens have tried to, focus in this novel, Great Expectations. I hope I'm clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Today I
Yes, sir.
spoke more. I don't know whether it was very helpful to you or not, because today it was like I spoke more than you people interacting.
So because some of us are not familiar with the novel at all, so we are trying to listen, because even after reading in the analysis or something, sometimes it is kind of since it's a very big novel, it is little confusing. So we were trying to listen from your perspective and trying to understand. So that's why, like, completely earlier classes, some of us have read the novel, so we could discuss with you. With this Great Expectation, it is completely new to us, so that's why, sir.
Sir, it's a very
Okay.
big novel, that's why.
Yeah, it is. It is actually. It is actually.
Yes, sir.
Uh, yeah. So, please pay attention to this, the symbols which has been used. And symbol, Satis house is one of the important symbols. So, try to, give a little importance when you're going through the book from the material. You can go through that in a proper way. Okay. And I'll send you some materials also, but please do not worry. I will chalk out everything properly, and I'll send you face by face.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
So today's class,
Sir,
was it? Could you? Yes, Mazda, please go ahead.
Sir, in fact, I read the book and I saw the movie of Great Expectation, and the hero was Leonardo DiCaprio. So I
Mhm.
think that um, um, he was a great actor to act like Pips. So for
Mhm.
those who couldn't read the book, they can see the movie. I think it's a very good
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, if you can send that link, in the group so that everyone can go through that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Master.
Yes,
Master,
sir.
you're
Thank you. It
from
was a
which
nice
place?
class.
So some of the links are not available in India. Like we were trying to search for Henry Fielding's Tom Jones movie, 1963. That movie, they said that is good. But we are trying to, search for this link, and it's really difficult to find any links because it is not available in our country. So
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, Tom
Yeah,
Jones is
it's
not available.
some.
For great expectation, there are other options also. I have seen and downloaded.
there are some
Yeah,
some
you
movies.
can
Actually,
you
some
can.
movies they have. Yes, sir.
No, no. I said like those who have the links, you can please share it so that others can get benefit out of it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, but for Tom Jones, nothing is available. We don't have the movie for Tom Jones. Even I searched a lot.
Yeah, for Withering Heights,
If
sir, for
whoever was
Withering
thinking
Heights,
could
we
send,
tried
it would be nice,
searching the
no?
drama. Yes, for Withering
Mhm.
Heights, I tried searching the movie, but there is one movie by Tom Hardy's that actors. There is one movie is available, and there is this one drama series is available, I guess. But other than that, Tom Jones is very difficult to find, sir. Because it is a very big book. We don't think we could finish it before the exams. So we were trying to do this analysis from net, and we, for better understanding, we can watch a movie and we can just go side by side with that, but it's very difficult to find the movie. It's not available in our country. If anyone could get it, then
Mazda,
it will be
Mazda,
really helpful.
you have seen that. Mazda, where are you from actually?
I am from Tunisia, but I am resident in Saudi Arabia, in KSA.
Saudi Arabia. Okay, okay.
Yes, I
So
can. I will look for this, search for them, and I will share with them.
yeah, if you can share and you can do one thing. Uh, if at all these people cannot, play the because as they said, some of them are banned in India. It's limited use to some of the countries. So if you could, download that and share, a drive so that they can it will be beneficial if you can do just suggestion or
Yes,
very.
they can send me which edition or which movie they want, and I would search for
Yeah,
them
yeah,
because there are many
I think,
options.
yeah, I think you can all interact in the group, and that will be, that will help you out.
But if they watch the movie by Leonardo DiCaprio, it's a very good movie. It's all in the book. It's there. So all
Okay,
you've been
okay.
talking
Kindly
about
share
is
that,
there.
please. Kindly share that, please. It will be nice.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will check for it, and I'm sure I will share it with you in the group subgroup.
Sorry. Can you please just to say the names of the movie? I can try from here. If it is there, I will try to just share. Let me
It's
check
the
first.
it's the Great Expectations. It's
Sir,
the
I
same
will send you.
as the title. It
No,
is
I'll
the
send you
same.
the list, sir.
Okay, better. So far I am here in Dubai. Maybe there have chance. I will try. Okay.
Okay, I will send you the link because there are recent time movies are slightly available, but the ones which is like Tom Jones and Wuthering Heights, which was written way back, and only a very few adaptations are good. They are close to the book, so it is really those versions are not available in our country. So we'll try to verify everything, and we'll try send you the names, sir. Then you can actually check and let us know.
Okay, please.
Okay, so I think we can end the class for today. Um,
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
thank you,
Thank
sir.
you,
thank
sir.
you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good
Thank you,
night,
Thank
sir.
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.